Years pass with no sign of completion.
Maestro Leonardo, quando pensate sarà finito?
Ho solo bisogno di mettere una faccia a Giuda. Oh, fermo lì. La vostra sembianza sarà perfetta.
Leonardo spends more than 3 difficult years on the mural, a complex and beautiful rendering of Christ's final meal with the apostles. It is called the Last Supper. Revolutionary for its time, Leonardo's painting captures the dramatic moment when Jesus tells his apostles, "One of you will betray me." In his writings, Leonardo describes how the gestures and faces of the apostles convey such intense distress.
One twists the fingers of his hands together and turns grim-faced to his master. Another, with hands outspread, showing the palms, shrugs his shoulders.
Da Vinci's attention to human response reveals his obsession with science.
He mastered anatomy, he was a master of geometry, he mastered perspective, and by utilizing all these sciences, Leonardo could create an art that was scientific in a way. Painting was a source of knowledge, just as geometry was a source of knowledge.
But in the Last Supper, Leonardo pushes his scientific approach too far as he experiments with his paints, incorporating oil, which proves incompatible with the plastic base.
So he decides he's going to try a new technique at drawing the fresco, and it doesn't work. In fact, it destroys much of what he has labored to do.
Within decades, dampness in the wall begins to disintegrate the oil-based paint. But Leonardo will not be there to see it happen. France, Milan's former ally in their war against Naples, now has a new king with a new goal, the submission of Milan. Leonardo is about to lose his patron, his security, and everything he has struggled for. In Milan, Leonardo da Vinci has created some of his most important work. He spends 17 years in the court of the Duke Ludovico Sforza, realizing his own dreams of success. As Leonardo nears the age of 50, the political winds change. Sforza's former ally, France, abruptly invades Milan. Da Vinci at once loses his patron and his security. His notes reflect his reversal of fortune.
The Duke has lost his state, his property, and his freedom. None of our great enterprises will come to pass.
The occupying French army, bent on annihilating any sign of the Sforzas, used Da Vinci's epic sculpture for target practice.
It was a symbolic act. It shows how closely these equestrian monuments were identified with the power of a certain ruler. Then secondary, it was a great work of art. But first of all, it was a symbol.
Da Vinci learns in this cruel act how fleeting his success might be and how vulnerable he is to the fickle nature of politics. Saddened by the loss of the great horse, an aging Leonardo leaves Milan with his faithful apprentice Salai. All his work must be left behind. The shattered horse, the Last Supper, all abandoned.
With the fall of the House of Sforza in Milan, Leonardo was out of a job, and there began a period of his life where he wandered about.
His notebooks reflect his state of mind.
Patience protects against misfortune as warm clothes protect against the cold. The warmer you dress, the more powerless the storm. In the same way, increasing your patience in the face of great wrongs renders them powerless against your peace of mind.
His travels take him to Venice, now threatened by the growing power of the Ottoman Turks. Perhaps here he will find a market for his innovative weapons and fortifications.
One of the interesting things I think about Leonardo is considering how much of his career he spent not working as an artist. He's always thought about first and foremost as a painter, but if you look at the number of years he was employed by various patrons, a big chunk of it was spent largely as a military engineer and as an entertainer.
He approaches the Duke of Venice with a variety of ideas, even a diving suit and snorkel system for underwater warfare. In his writings, Da Vinci describes his complex design.
A breastplate of armor with hood, doublet and hose, and the wineskin to hold the breath, with half a hoop of iron to keep it clear of the chest. When you deflate the wineskin, you will go to the bottom, pulled down by sacks of sand. When you inflate it, you will rise to the surface.
He seems sometimes almost not to really belong to his age, in a day when they didn't even have mundane things like regular ways of keeping time. Leonardo is thinking about walking on the bottom of the ocean and flying in the air with the birds and developing self-propelled vehicles. He just has such a completely singular vision of pretty much everything around him.
Da Vinci's ideas are centuries ahead of his time. His code has led him to dream the impossible. But Venice has no interest in his inventions. He is considered a foreigner, and his visionary ideas create only suspicion. Rejected, he must pursue his dreams elsewhere. He travels back to Florence, the land of his boyhood.
It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sit back and let things happen to them. They go out and make things happen.
But Da Vinci's confidence will soon be challenged. The Florence of his youth has changed. Though he is still recognized as a great artist, someone newer and younger has captured the city's imagination. His name is Michelangelo Buonarroti, a brash young artist of only 26 whose talent is astonishing. Leonardo despises him.
Artists of the Renaissance were extremely competitive with each other and with themselves.
Tough, disheveled, and arrogant, Michelangelo defies Leonardo's expectations of the courtly artist. In his notes, Da Vinci voices his disgust.
The sculptor's face is covered with paste and all powdered with marble dust, so that he resembles a baker. His house is dirty and filled with chips and dust of stone. With the painter, it is just the opposite. Well-dressed, sitting easily in front of his work and moving a very light brush. His home is filled with music, unspoiled by the pounding of hammers.
The simmering hostility between Leonardo and Michelangelo quickly becomes public. One day, as Michelangelo approaches on a busy street, Leonardo defers a question about the writer Dante to the passing sculptor.
Chiedi a Michelangelo. Lui ha letto Dante.
Spiegatelo da solo. E già che ci sei, spiega come hai imbrogliato la gente di Milano con il tuo impossibile cavallo.
Stung by the insult, reminded of his failure, Da Vinci is bitter. He continues to mock Michelangelo's work.
I think I'm quoting him accurately when he criticized painters like Michelangelo, for whose anatomy, he said, made people look as if they were bags full of walnuts.
Almost 25 years older than Michelangelo, Leonardo is dispirited, packing up his paints each night with less passion than the night before. His writings reflect his growing despair and increasing age.
Oh, time, devourer of all things, oh, spiteful age, how you destroy and consume everything with the relentless teeth of years, little by little in a slow death.
Dejected, Leonardo finds opportunity in one of the most unlikely of patrons, a man whose treachery surpasses all others, even in this violent time. His name is Cesare Borgia, and he is bent on carving a bloody path to power straight through the heart of Italy. Having lost the work of 17 years, a disheartened Leonardo da Vinci eventually returns to Florence, only to find himself challenged by a much younger rival, the great artist Michelangelo. His notebooks reveal that even in the face of all this, his code demands that he push on.
Obstacles cannot crush me. Every obstacle must yield to stern resolve. He whose gaze is fixed on a distant star will not falter.
In 1502, Da Vinci finds an unlikely opportunity in Pope Alexander and his bastard son, one of the most dreaded tyrants of the age, Cesare Borgia.
Cesare is accused at least of murdering one or two of his sister's husbands and lovers, and maybe his own brother. Cesare himself is portrayed by some as being the devil incarnate, by others as being this great leader.
Borgia personifies the corruption and hunger for power that has come to define the papacy. He is ruthless in his attempt to consolidate his father's empire, hoping to one day claim it as his own. One by one, the cities of Romagna and northern Italy fall to Borgia's papal army. Hungrily, he sets his mark on an ever-widening area. But in order to succeed, he needs an edge, someone with new ideas. He turns to Leonardo da Vinci.
Ecco le vostre carte.
È un onore servirla.
He was given the title of Chief General Engineer by Borgia, and so Leonardo probably had a chance to observe the real horrors of war firsthand.
The villages of northern Italy become Borgia's slaughterhouse as his mercenary armies move to expand the holdings of his father, the Pope.
Borgia has been described as one of the cruelest men in Italian history, and in fact Borgia was the subject of Machiavelli's book The Prince, as the model warlord who could achieve this unification of Italy.
The death of the innocent means nothing to Borgia, as he seizes whatever he desires. He makes a reputation as a man of extraordinary cruelty, pragmatic, intelligent, and deadly. Da Vinci serves his patron well, supervising the building of defensive works, towers, trenches, and weaponry. He is finally given the opportunity to pursue military designs, to practice the art of war. For Borgia, Leonardo's greatest skill lay in his unique bird's-eye view map, a key to success in battle.
By handing these maps to Borgia, Leonardo was enabling this warlord to run his troops through the night and arrive ahead of time at the battle and have a chance to win. And so the relationship between Leonardo and warfare is very complex.
Da Vinci and the ruthless Borgia work well together, each with a complex mind, each actively ambitious. In the mechanics of war and the subtleties of power, Leonardo excels.
This may be one of the things that Leonardo is never given credit for. He seems to know the political winds, and he seems to blow quite nicely with them. And he fits in very well with Cesare's court.
Although Borgia's savagery is well known to Da Vinci, the violence suddenly becomes more personal when Borgia orders the brutal execution of 3 captains. One, Vitellozzo Vitelli, is a friend of Da Vinci's. The artist is repelled. His writings reflect his growing doubts.
Truly man is more savage than beast.